بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. 10 years after the emigration, the Messenger of God invited people from different places to join him in his last pilgrimage to Mecca. On this pilgrimage, the Prophet taught them how to perform Hajj rituals in a correct and unified form. This was the first time that Muslims with this magnitude gathered in one place in the presence of the Holy Prophet. On his way to Mecca, more than 70,000 people followed him. And on the fourth day of Dhul Hijjah, more than 100,000 Muslims had entered Mecca. While returning from his last pilgrimage, when the Prophet and the crowd of people reached a place called Ghadir on the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, the Prophet received a command from the Almighty God. Ya ayyuha Rasul, O the Messenger, بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ, announce that which has been revealed to you from your Creator, your Nurturer. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ, and if you do not, then you have not conveyed his message. Whereas Ghadir was a place where people from different places, from different provinces, used to greet each other before taking different routes for their home, the Prophet stopped at that place to convey the message to the pilgrims before they dispersed. That's why the Prophet sent to those who have been ahead in the way to come back, and waited until all pilgrims who fell behind arrived and gathered. Then, using the camel saddles, a pulpit was set up for the Holy Prophet so that he could make his announcement and people could see him better. The weather was very hot, to the extent that people were wrapping their robes around their feet and legs. They were sitting around the pulpit on the hot rocks. Then the Prophet delivered a long sermon in which he recited some verses of the Holy Quran, and several times the Prophet reminded and warned people about their deeds and their future. In the end, when the Prophet made people prepared enough, took the hand of Imam Ali, raised it, and introduced him as the master of his nation after his demise by declaring, "Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla." Whoever's master I am, this Ali is also his master. The assembled multitude hadn't begun to disperse when the agent of revelation revealed this verse of Quran to the Holy Prophet. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. This day I have perfected for you your religion. وأتممت عليكم نعمتي, and completed my favor upon you. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا, and have approved for you Islam as religion. Then people came to Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam in groups and congratulated him on his appointment as a leader, addressing him as their master and the master of every believer. But dear brothers and sisters, at this point the issue that we intend to explain is the great status of Mahdism in Ghadir sermon. You know, in this sermon the Prophet puts a particular stress on this crucial code that the perfection of religion is possible through Imam. And this path, the path of Imam, will continue until the day of judgment, and those who deviate from this path will be among the misguided, among the losers. The Prophet, in addition to emphasizing the importance of the high position of the Imam, repeatedly mentions the name of Al-Imam Al-Mahdi and the actualization of his advent in the future and his dominion over the whole world, and enumerates some of his attributes. For instance, in a part of this sermon, the Prophet explicitly mentions Al-Imam Al-Mahdi as the Qa'im, as the oppriser, and introduces him as a person who will regain the lost divine rights and conquer the east and the west of the earth. In another part, the Prophet clarifies that the divine promise of Imam's absolute sovereignty over the whole world before the day of resurrection will be fulfilled. However, the Holy Prophet does not suffice to mentioning only the name of Al-Imam Al-Mahdi as his last successor. So, in the third step, he says in detail about the characteristics of Al-Imam Al-Mahdi. ألا إنه وارث كل علم والمحيط بكل فهم. The Prophet says, Al-Imam Al-Mahdi indeed is the inheritor of every kinds of knowledge and encompasses every perception. ألا إنه الباغي حجة ولا حجة بعده. Indeed, Al-Imam Al-Mahdi is the remaining proof, remaining hujjah, and there shall be no proof after him. لا حق إلا معه ولا نور إلا عنده. There is no right other than that is with him, and there is no light except that is with him. Then the Holy Prophet, in the last verses of this long sermon, expresses his divine mission in taking the covenant, the allegiance from people on accepting the Imam, the leadership of Al-Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib and his successors. Then the Prophet names in particular Al-Imam Al-Mahdi as his last successor, as the last Imam. You see, dear brothers and sisters, this is the great status of Imam. This is the high position of Mahdism in the sight of the Holy Prophet, the Messenger of God. In reality, in the sight of God, the Almighty. You can read this sermon and study more about it to get more acquainted with this vital issue, with this crucial code, the path which is going to continue until the day of resurrection. May the Almighty God hasten the reappearance of our dear Imam, and may all of us be bestowed with our dear Imam's one look of favor. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.